Okay, y'all. This is the first episode of the relaunch for Intake Talk Show. I'm excited about this topic. What are you intaking? Including how it correlates with why I named the show and my practice Intake. But before we get into that, share this video with someone you think may need to hear this, and don't forget to subscribe. Okay, y'all, let's get started. I'm excited. Hi, my name is Bertha Barrett, licensed mental health counselor in Florida and licensed professional counselor in Georgia. I'm also a certified clinical trauma professional. Welcome back to Intake Talk Show. Whoa, that feels good. It sounds good. I've received a lot of inquiries about when or if the show is coming back and what happened. I'll talk about that hopefully later on in the show. Now let's get started with the topic. What are you intaking? So there's a lot that goes on internally with how we create our perception of ourselves and the world around us, and how that starts with what and how we intake information and experiences. This also includes trauma, even when you're not the person who actually experienced the traumatic event. Sometimes when we see someone, specifically someone we care about, like a parent, family member, or friend, go through something really scary, sad, or painful, it can feel like we're going through it too, even if it didn't happen to us directly. Why? Because our brains are built to care. When you see someone hurt or scared, your brain has mirror systems, also known as mirror neurons, and they will cause you to feel what the other person is feeling, almost if you are living in it yourself. Let's say when you were a child, you saw a parent who was always upset, afraid, or acting different because of something bad that happened. Your brain may not know how to separate their pain from your feelings. Over time, you may start feeling sad, nervous, or like something is wrong, even if no one ever hurt you personally. So, what are some ways it may affect you? You may worry all the time, feel nervous around people, or feel like you're not good enough. You may think the world isn't safe, or that bad things will happen to you too. Your body might even hold on to that fear, making it hard to relax, sleep, or concentrate even years later. Now let's talk about the brain science behind all of this. Your brain has special parts that are meant to keep you safe and help you connect to others. One is the amygdala. This is the brain's alarm system. It looks out for danger and tells you when to be afraid or alert. There's the mirror neurons in different parts of the brain. These help you feel what others are feeling. When someone cries, you might also feel sad. That's your mirror system working. There's also the hippocampus. This part stores your memories and connect them with your feelings. If you saw something scary, it might hold on to that memory and link it to danger. Then there is the prefrontal cortex. This is the smart part of our brain that helps us think, solve problems, and calm down. But when you're stressed, this part goes offline and the amygdala takes over. So basically, if you see someone you love hurt or afraid, or if you see someone constantly who looks like you getting hurt or killed, your amygdala might say, that could happen to me too. And the memory of that gets stored into your hippocampus, so you stay on alert even when you're safe. Now, what happened if you experience the trauma firsthand? When someone goes through something traumatic, like abuse, violence, loss, or significant fear, it doesn't just hurt in the moment. It can change the way they think, feel, and see themselves for a long time after. When trauma happens, especially in early life, it sends messages to your brain that may sound like, you're not safe, you're not worthy, you caused this, you can't trust anyone, even if these messages are not true. They get stored in the body and brain like they are facts. Over time, the person may feel ashamed or broken, lose trust in themselves, see themselves as a survivor, but forget who they were before the trauma happened, or struggle to imagine a future where they are whole, safe, or loved. Trauma has a way of rewiring the brain. Let me say that again. Trauma has a way of rewiring the brain. The brain adapts to pain by changing the way it sees the world and itself. Instead of, I had a bad thing happen to me, the brain starts to believe I am bad. Or, this is who I am now. This is a survivor response, but it can lead to low self-esteem, self-blame, avoiding joy, love, or hope. Often there is a cycle of trauma and identity that looks like bad experiences, emotional pain, negative thoughts, deep beliefs, new identity. Well, new trauma identity. Unless this cycle is interrupted, the person may continue seeing themselves through a trauma-colored lens. Okay, so that's the trauma side of it. But why do people feel like they're not good enough, even though they are? And from their viewpoint, they haven't gone through trauma or something bad, although they may have. I'll be back with that one. What if I told you that everything you're consuming is feeding your mind? Not just food. I'm talking about your mental diet, the thoughts, the conversations, the images, the relationships, the content you scroll through without thinking twice. We all know that what we eat affects our physical health, but what about what we intake mentally? We are constantly fed information from past experiences, childhood trauma, media, gossip, arguments, stressful moments, and sometimes without even realizing it, but it all enters your system. That's unconscious intake. And it builds up like clutter in your emotional space. But the good news is you can take your power back. But that requires you to choose what and who you allow in your mental space. You have the right to protect your peace. You have the right to say, this doesn't serve me. You have the right to choose nourishment over noise. Welcome back to Intake. My name is Bertha Barrett. So, why do some people feel like they're not good enough, even when they are? And from their viewpoint, they haven't gone through any trauma or some bad experience, although they may have. So the idea of someone feeling like they're not smart enough, not pretty enough, not lovable, or not good enough, even when it's not true, usually comes from what they've been told, how they were treated, or what they believed when something bad happened. Again, your brain is like a sponge when you're young. If you hear you're not good enough, implicitly or explicitly, and that may look like being ignored, including having a parent walk out of your life, yelled at, or compared to others, you may start believing it. Even if it wasn't said out loud, your brain remembers how things felt and tries to make sense of them. Over time, those thoughts become like a mean voice in your head that says, see, you messed up again, or you're not good enough. So if you were told, shown, or felt like you were not good enough growing up, your brain remembers that feeling and starts repeating it like a broken record. By now, I hope you can see how what you intake matters. If you take in a lot of negativity, mean words, scary moments, or even too much comparison, like on social media, your brain starts to believe those things are facts. That makes it hard to try new things, believe in yourself, or feel proud of who you are. Why this affects confidence. Confidence or self-esteem is believing I can do this. When your brain gets filled with I can't or I'm not good enough, it shuts down the part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that allows you to see things clearer. And when this happens, you may not try new things. You may give up quickly or not see how amazing you really are. So, how does this look in the brain? Again, here's the amygdala. It remembers emotional pain and keeps you on the lookout for more hurt, especially rejection or failure. The anterior cingulate cortex. This part helps you notice mistakes and pain. If it works too hard, it makes you feel like you're always doing something wrong. Then there's the prefrontal cortex, which helps you think clearer. If you've heard or believed bad things about yourself for a long time, this part starts focusing on the negative. And lastly, there is a default mode network. This system runs when your brain is resting and thinking about yourself. If your thoughts have been negative for a long time, this network can loop negative self-talk automatically. The simplest way to think about this is when you're walking across the grass over and over again. It creates a pathway. But your brain does too, and we identify this as the neurological pathway in the brain. When I was studying psychology, a professor said to us in one of the classes, the brain doesn't know the difference between the truth or a lie. It only knows what you tell it. This thing hit me so hard that it stayed with me, and that was years ago. The good news is, regardless if you experience the trauma yourself or see someone else experience the trauma, your brain can learn new ways to feel safe and strong again. When you talk about what happened, learn what's true or what's not true, and practice new ways to feel in control, your brain actually starts to rewire itself to feel better. Just like a garden can grow better with sunshine and water, your brain can grow healthier with kind words, support, and practice. Talking about the mean voice, surrounding yourself with encouraging people, and celebrating even the small wins can help change how you see yourself. You are not broken. Your brain just needs a little help to see the truth about how valuable you really are. So this is what I'm saying, and I want you to hear me clearly. If you're one of those people who just always feels like I must have a sign on my back that says mistreat me, what's really happening is because of this whole dynamic of the brain, we tend to gravitate to what we know. So if you grew up with negativity, if you've been around negativity all of your life, then you gravitate to what you know. So perhaps it may be best that you move yourself out of these negative spaces. If you feel like I'm supporting somebody in everything that they do, and when it's time for me to be supported, they don't support me, all that does is reinforces these feelings about you, negative feelings about I'm not good enough. So maybe it's time to move to something that doesn't feel as normal so that you can stop reinforcing this idea. And it's really just about how our brain works, right? It does this thing with, trying to help us out. The brain is a beautiful tool, and it always tries to protect us. But sometimes in its way of protecting us, it holds on to these negative things trying to keep us safe until it just becomes an automatic response. So again, you are not broken, dear. You are a valuable being, and you need to know that. I'll be right back.